Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm really happy it's a beautiful day, and there isn't that much smoke, which is great. So my name's Chrystal Sparrow. I come from the Musqueam First Nations. I'm a Salish artist and female carver, and I welcome you to the Musqueam territory. And I'm very happy to say that it's great to see how the land here is being used to grow beautiful food and flowers and medicines and herbs. I find that farming is so important. I've spent about 2.5 years working at UBC Farm. I was working with Eduardo, my supervisor, with the Musqueam farm space there, and it was a beautiful experience to, one, be on the land, but to learn about the importance of food, organic food. There's also a medicine garden there as well. And it was a beautiful experience because I not only got to learn how to grow food, but to watch it grow, but also to support the Musqueam community. So we had this elders program, and we would harvest and we would deliver fresh vegetables to our elders, and just to see the impact and how happy they were, how grateful they were to have this produce. We also got youth involved. And it was a great experience, and I'm very thankful, and I have a much more appreciation for growing food and how it really does impact people, families, and elders. So to be, a part of seeing a space like this in the city is also just a great experience, to see all the volunteers and how much it's a great space, and how people are happy and they're thriving, and they're working on the land. And I think more land should have spaces like this where we're growing food and we have people coming together. So I just wanted to share that, and I again very happy to see everybody here, and just want people to feel welcome to this space, and knowing that a Musqueam member is very happy to welcome you to this space on this land. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Chrystal. It's really nice to have you here. Thank you. So now I'm going to call up Leona Brown, and Leona is with Vancouver Urban Food Forest, and so she's going to share with us some of the work that she does with them.
Hi everybody, my name is Leona Brown. I am Gitsan through my parents and Nishka through my grandparents. I have 3 kids that are 19, 13, and 10. I started in this, what do you call it, industry? The cool club that we're in with working with gardens, probably around 2016 with a group that Jolene Andrew had created called Resurfacing History, and I was in that program for about 3 years, and it was really just a grassroots way of learning indigenous plants and medicines around us. I thought it was a fantastic group, but it didn't last very long because Jolene moved on, and there's nobody more fabulous than her. So the program just kind of died away. And then COVID hits in 2020, and everybody is on Zoom. I got to meet a couple of people like in person, have a conversation with some people about the work that I dream of doing or that I want to do. And I came across MP Marie Pierre from Buff, and she invited me to one of their Zooms, and I wanted to learn more about what is the Vancouver Urban Food Forest about. And they shared their ideas with me, and I thought it was a fabulous connection because it's something that I want to do myself. So we talked about trying to claim the Burrard View space at Wall Street and Penticton, I believe it's at. And they've been having a struggle, so I came on as like an Indigenous advisor to make it as an Indigenous lead, that we want to acquire these spaces so that we could plant some Indigenous medicines and connect with other people that are non-Indigenous, and let's grow some plants together and break down those walls of racism and hate and everything. And working with VUF has been super amazing. Definitely a group that had my dream in mind, and I talk about VUF everywhere I go, because it's such a easy, simple context. We have acquired the Chen Chen Sui at Wall Street near the Mother Center as well. If you haven't heard of it or seen it, you could go down there and check it out. Of the idea of a food forest that we dreamt up together, and it's super amazing how quickly it was put together. We did it in ceremony with Mother Center, and it just, after a year after planting it, it's super amazing. So it's been a dream to replicate that in all spaces that we're in. In Chen Chen Sui, I believe there's like a few salmonberries, huckleberries, I think blueberries, a lot of Indigenous plants. Our main focus was tobacco, because a lot of Indigenous people don't know what tobacco looks like. They don't know how to harvest it or dry it or use it. We know that it's for prayer, but it was one focus that we had, to make sure that the plant was growing there. And now a lot of people know how easy it is to grow. You just need one plant to be able to sustain yourself forever and your community. And that was the idea around the Vancouver Urban Food Forest, is building community. And it went in line with what I wanted to see, was like reconciliation and building community together, so that non-Indigenous learn about us and our plants. We decolonize our own mindsets to get back to our grassroots of learning and teaching and building community. Because if you build a community, people will come. And if you build ours is a little park, but it has logs in a circle that we use for healing, but it's open to anybody. Anybody can go there and use the space if they wanted to. But in a sense, it's set up so that you know that you're in a healing space if you're sitting in a circle and learning together. There's a lot of things that have come up since I've started with VUF. We've had several news interviews, some research papers that we're part of. I just did one with UBC and the city that are working together to kind of rewild the city. So I just did an interview there yesterday at Chen Chen Sui with them, talking about the importance of acquiring small spaces, whether it's in parks or not. We need to try to decolonize and make use of spaces that are not being used for a long time. Like one of my pilot projects that VUF and I are going to join in on with Michael Weeb, who used to be on City Council last year. He has a space by Broadway and Main. There's 3 plots where 3 stores were that were burnt down. And we were trying to make a connection with parks to help put some plants in there and provide logs and everything. But there's a big, huge policy that parks can't provide anything because they consider it private land. So now we're in a process of trying to decolonize that policy and letting them help us with the Indigenous lead create these little healing spaces in the city, so that it just doesn't look like a pit of rocks and a metal fence somewhere that people can use temporarily. This space is open from approximately like 3 to 5 years. They're saying, and they don't plan to build on it right now. So I figure they're probably waiting for like the the Broadway line to finish, the SkyTrain, and then they're going to build up in density. So there's some time to like utilize these spaces for gardens, for healing, not just food, but like healing plants and stuff. From anybody, anywhere around the country, Indigenous people have healing plants, and it would be great to see those in these spaces. So those are some of the things that VUF are doing, or I'm doing as a lead for VUF, and hopefully soon Burrardview will be open. We have acquired the field house there. We're so lucky to have that. But the huge space that's in front of it, we're delayed because when we start investigating and resurfacing that history of the space, we discovered that because it's by the hospice center used to be a baby orphanage there, and there used to be 2 detention centers, youth detention centers there. And MP had graciously put in hours and hours and hours of research on those little microfiche films, if you know what those are. You have to turn by hand and, you know, whiz your eyes around to try to read quickly. She graciously did that, and she found some info from 1920s, a newspaper article about a guy who was running the baby orphanage, who used to be a residential school principal or something, but he was moved out west here, and he was getting in some trouble about you know, some happenings at that baby orphanage. So what we found in that one like long skinny article, and it had one tiny little line that said an indigenous boy had died there. Didn't say anything else, so there was more research that had to be done about it. And we found that his name was George Leisk, and he was only 14. He was there for a month and he died. He was there with 2 other siblings. And from what we could find out, he had passed from pneumonia. So there was a lot of neglect going on in this orphanage. Not because they were Indigenous. I mean, there was very few Indigenous kids in this orphanage, in the detention centers. It was just the guy who was running the space that was very neglectful. So with this space, because we found that information, it was around the same time the 215 bodies had started coming up, and that information being shared. So we decided to approach the 3 Nations about doing an investigation and doing some sonar review. And it took some time for them to take the lead, but they did take a lead in it, and they did do the sonar penetration, I guess you call it, in last October. And we're still waiting for the results from that. We're fairly positive that it's okay, but we still have to wait for the results so that we can carry on in this space in ceremony. We're looking for grants to be able to do a huge opening and have the family, the descendants of George Leisk, come over from Vancouver Island and be present in honoring him in his last few days on that space. Other than that, I think that's what we're waiting for. And then we're working on trying to break down those policies with city and parks so that we can utilize spaces in where stores used to be or something. So I think that's all I have to share right now. Was that 10 minutes? Was that 10 minutes?
It was great.
Is that cut? Any questions? I'm around. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leona, for sharing all your stories and all of the work that you do with buffs. I'm now going to bring up Sarah, who's going to introduce us to Farmers on 57th.
Yeah. Hold it. Oh, sure. Yeah. I think either I'll have to make it taller or I'll hold it. Welcome, everybody. So this is Farmers on 57th. It is an operating farm, and it is on the site that is also an operating care facility. So there are people that live here and there and all over, and this is their home. There are people with disabilities, all ages, and it really was them that I think gave us the green light for this project. It was back in 2008. Jen is over there. Jen was riding her bike by, and she saw all these lawns, and she was familiar with George Pearson Center because her mom had worked here as a physiotherapist. And she saw all these lawns, and she said, "Lawns, those should be gardens. That should be a farm." And she went and wrote up a proposal and sent it here. And many people had proposed this on these lands, but no one had managed to get it past the bureaucracy. And just the timing was right, and stars aligned, and we started cutting up sod in early 2009 in March. It snowed in March 2009. You may not remember that, but if you're rolling up sod, you would remember that, because it made it very, very heavy and very hard to move. And that is sort of really how it all began. And it has grown so much from there. I think one of the things that I've observed is that it's constantly being carried by the community. The passion that people have for being in a space like this with the plants and the connections that happen over plants, through plants, around plants, is really what's carried this to the point that it still exists now, including when we had to move the farm, which is not an easy thing to do. This entire parcel of land is under redevelopment, and over there is where the farm used to be, and it's a big hole in the ground now. So at some point they said, "You've got to move." And we walked around and said, "Well, how about we move here and here and here?" And so now, instead of one farm patch, we're in these various pockets. And again, we feel very lucky that we were able to move that forward. And it was the amazing power of the community. I think at that point, many of us were like, moving a farm? We can't do that. It's too hard. Do you know how many boulders we pulled out of the ground to build it in the first place? We were feeling a little like this might be the end of Farmers on 57th, and the community rallied, and new energy came in, and people said, "Hey, we can do it," and so we did. So I think that's for me one of the heart of this project, whatever this is the community. So we have the market garden. There's a CSA program. I think it's up to 75 shares now. Am I right on that? Yes, which is fantastic. It's sort of growing every year. So people come and get their weekly produce. There's also various satellite programs. So there's a grow your own food course that people can come in. There's community gardens on the other side over there. And we also have horticultural therapy programs. We have, for the residents that live here, we have a gardening program. We also have a satellite program that's at a family place. Which family place is it?
South Van. South
Van Family Place. And that's called Growing Eden. Started on this property, but was moved over there. And that is a gardening program that serves low-income and refugee families. And all sorts of magical, wonderful happenstance things happen there. You know, we really, we want people to feel welcome here, and we want people to feel like it is also yours, because it is when, you know, we're in this green space. And I'm going to get all gushy now, but I think just a couple housekeeping pieces. The pathways, we'll try to keep them clear, watch for operations that happen. This definitely is an operating space. Be aware that people are in those bedrooms. So when you see windows, those are people's rooms and they live here. So we'll just try to be mindful of that. And then this is an operating farm, so stick to the pathways. And you're welcome to harvest certain things and not other things, as we need to have enough produce for the CSA on Tuesday. So please ask anyone from Farmers on 57th there are tours that will take you to find out what are edible that you can pick. You can see us from our leaf name tags. And did I miss anything? I think that's, oh, toilet. Little over there, there's a porta potty. There's also the hand washing there, I think Emily mentioned. Yeah. Okay, well, I think that's all I have to say. I mean, I could ramble on about the history, but that's probably more for the table. This is the Farmers on 57th table, so if you want to learn more about any of our programs, please come and ask us and come on our tour. All right? Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. We're gonna bring up City Beet Farm. So Leanna and Duncan are gonna come up and introduce themselves. Round of applause. It's a little low, you might have. We didn't talk about who's gonna talk.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, I'm Leanna. I use she, her pronouns.
I'm Duncan, and he, him.
And we run City Beet Farm, which is another urban farm in Vancouver. And we are a little different than this, but kind of based on that same principle that there's a bunch of lawns and they should have been growing veggies. City Beet uses people's front and backyards, so just residential yards, to grow mostly vegetables and some cut flowers. And we sell also mostly through a CSA, so people sign up and then they come once a week and pick up their veggies. This year we have 14 yards, and altogether they make up about half an acre. 13 of them are sort of centralized around the Riley Park neighborhood, and then we have one yard that's as big as all of the other yards combined, and it's in the Southlands neighborhood, which, if you know it, is south on the river in Vancouver, and it's the only part of the city of Vancouver that's part of the agricultural land reserve. So the properties there are a little bit bigger, and people are allowed to have horses. So if you've never been, it's kind of a fun place to go for a walk and see some horses. So that's how our yard there is bigger than all the other ones. And we sell most of our produce outside of a cafe in Mount Pleasant called the Federal Store, and we do our CSA pickup on Wednesdays, and people can also come by a little market table and see what we have. And this year also, because we know that, you know, local and regeneratively or organically grown produce, which are models that we follow but we're not certified in anything, is not always accessible. We also have some community mutual aid partnerships that we set up. We got a grant through Van City's Enviro Fund. So we have partnerships with 2 neighborhood houses, the Little Mountain Neighborhood House, which is in the Riley Park neighborhood, and Mount Pleasant Neighborhood House, and then also JFS Vancouver, which is also their food hub is in Mount Pleasant. And through those partnerships, we are able to, they receive the vegetables as a donation, but we're still paid for them through the grant, and they have food banks or meal programs. And that's really awesome because our farm is really founded and dependent on all of these community relationships. We have lots of relationships with our homeowners and with our CSA members and with the different organizations that house our market table, or our processing station is in the parking lot of a church. So this just felt like a very important and meaningful way to give back to the community and people who live in the community who are not able to access our vegetables otherwise. And we call the program Veggies for Neighbors because we're trying to make our vegetables more accessible to more of our neighbors. Do you want to add anything?
I think that covers it. We grow the typical market garden veggies, tomatoes, cucumbers, zucchinis. We have an entire yard on a sunny corner that's just like 8 30-foot beds of zucchini, which is incredibly productive. I mean, there's tons you can grow on even a little space in a city if it's sunny enough. So yeah, it always astounds me how productive like these smaller scale farms can be, and really in people's faces. Like people walking by on the street will see our garden and stop us fully from working and be like, tell me about what you're doing here. Where does this go? Who are you selling to? Can I buy something right now? This kind of stuff. Yeah, it's really, I think it's a nice way to show what an organic farm looks like, because often we're so far away from that and you don't get the chance to.
Yeah, and just like maybe to finish, talk about, I guess we didn't talk about how the farm started and its history a little bit. We're actually the third owners of City Beet. It started in 2013, and it kind of was about the difficulty of accessing land for new farmers. There are two young women named Katie and Ruth, and they both had done some farming in Ontario, I think, but they were going to school out here, and they wanted to farm, but they didn't want to leave the city. And so they just went around and knocked on doors and asked people if they could use their yard for this, and a bunch of people said yes. And then the farm has gone through many different iterations since then. It changed hands once, and then in 2021, we took it over. Duncan has a background in landscape architecture, and I have a background in urban planning, so related, but not necessarily directly related, although Duncan had worked on an urban farm before. So yeah, it really does come back to all of those partnerships. And then I guess maybe the last thing that I'll leave it on, which is something that I love about it, is that most of our eaters, our community members, live in the same neighborhoods where their food is grown. So it doesn't really get more local than that, which also we see here. And that's something that's like very affirming and inspiring that we hear, is like those same people who walk by us and are like, oh, what are you doing? Or like, what vegetable is that? And it's usually kohlrabi. Nobody knows what that is. Sometimes we hear from people like, oh, seeing what you guys are doing in these yards inspired me to do more gardening in my yard. And I don't think food security is necessarily about everybody growing their own food. That's why we live in community. We can, you know, divide tasks and labor and share, and that's what's beautiful about it. But when it does bring someone joy, or they feel called to it, or they see that their space could be used for something meaningful like that, that's really awesome for us, because being in a city, part of what we're doing is that engagement for people who don't normally, like Duncan said, get to witness the food system or the production side of it. So that's something that we love to hear. And yeah, I think that's a good bit about the history of the farm and kind of who we are. Thank you so much for having us here. It's lovely. Another thing about being an urban farmer is that it is kind of isolating from other farmers. So it's really beautiful to be in community today. And thank you all for being here.
All right, thank you so much. It's just been so wonderful to hear about all of the amazing work that everybody's doing, and it's nice to all be here together. Like, thank you for that comment, Leanna. It's really nice to all be in community together. So I'm going to bring up Fresh Roots Farm now. There you are. Yeah, and Alexa's going to talk to us about their initiatives.
Hi. Is that loud enough? Is that the right thing? There's some more shade over here if anyone wants to move over there. I worry about you all. Good afternoon. My name is Alexa Batulis. I'm the Executive Director of Fresh Roots. And, you know, it's kind of interesting. Fresh Roots has been around and actually started much in the same way that City Beet started way back in 2008, 2009, where founders Ilana Labo and Gray Oren asked how many people can we feed by growing food in one backyard, then two backyards, and blah, 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 till one day they were growing adjacent to a school. And a teacher sort of looked over at what they were doing. Is like, hey, how about you come over here and start growing on the school? And so 3 years later, that started the what we know as the first ever schoolyard farm in Canada at Vancouver Technical Secondary in 2013. And quickly that year, the second one at David Thompson Secondary. And so now fast forward, we're celebrating the 10th anniversary of those two schoolyard farms at Fresh Roots. And we've learned so much in that decade. I love how Leona was talking about decolonizing the systems. And I think when it comes back to it, Fresh Roots at its core works in both farming and education. And the route that Fresh Roots has taken through its urban farming is really to say, like you all have already said, it's about utilizing underutilized urban spaces. It's about inspiring neighbors. It's about bringing people together. It's about community connection. It's about local food and eating and nourishing ourselves and each other. But for our Fresh Roots, I think the focus of our work that's a bit unique is that we are doing all of that while engaging kids and youth. And so really, so many kids and youth do not have a chance to know where food comes from, to experience the delight of harvesting a carrot and then eating it straight with dirt on and feeling how amazing that is, or to see the worms and feel the connection between the pollinators and the worms and the soil health. So what we started out as, so I was saying, wearing the farmer's hat, Fresh Roots quickly realized that there was quite a gap in the dream of the teachers and the kids would just come out and start using the spaces that Fresh Roots was growing on. And so over the past several years, Fresh Roots has pivoted a little bit to not only farm, but to develop a suite of educational experiential learning. So really hands-on learning programs. To now we very proud with an amazing team. We support over 5,000 kids and youth in over 26,000 learning hours each year in the, grow and while growing over 200 different crop varieties. So we also have a site in Coquitlam with the Sault School District. And now I'm losing my train of thought. Come visit us at the table. I think the last thing I wanted to say here is that a lot of the work that we also do is around really advocating for a comprehensive, universal farm to school, farm to cafeteria approach to the school food. So Canada, if you don't know, is the only G7 nation that does not have a federally funded school meal program. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's just ad hoc and it looks different. It's inconsistent. Often there's a lot of stigma around the programs and it's run on shoestrings. So we, Fresh Roots, along with Leona's work in another sector, we've worked really, and many other organizations through the work of the Coalition for a Healthy School Food, are really working to demonstrate and report and work with our school district partners around implementing and embedding this farm to school, farm to cafeteria that includes food literacy, that includes the connection with growing spaces, with indigenous plant medicine, with forage things, as well as getting food in bellies of kids, all kids, every day, so that they can learn and then they can also, understand that connection, because that's really, I think, at the root of building our sustainable and climate adapted communities of the future. So thanks everybody. Come visit us, ask us more questions, and just grateful to be here with you all at the end of a very busy growing season.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alexa. All right, and now we're going to call up UBC. So Dakota's going to join us up here and talk about UBC Farm.
Hello, everybody. Hello, my name is Dakota Barron, and I am the field manager at the UBC Farm. And here I have Debbie and Noah, who are two of our practicum students. So just to give you guys a little bit of, just tell you about the farm a little bit. So the UBC Farm is on the UBC Endowment Lands, which is stolen and ceded Musqueam territory. The farm's been going on for, I think this is the 21st year, and we are primarily a research, education, and community facility. So we put on a practicum program, which we get 16 practicum students every single year, as well as we have a organic, horticulturally based space that's about 8 acres, 7.5, 8 acres, but all of this is taking place on 60 acres of land. So this is encompassing multiple community, different communities. We've got Musqueam garden there, we've got the Mine garden there, and then we also have, what else have we got going on there? The Musqueam garden as well, which is part of the Musqueam garden. So basically here we are selling we do a CSA, which is a 160-person CSA, and we do 2 farmers markets as well. I have just moved to the farm. I've been there for about 3 seasons now, and this is my first time actually working on an urban farm. I've worked in rural farms kind of mostly across Canada, but in other countries as well. And I'm pretty excited about working here, especially because I think it offers a lot more accessibility. We just bring in about 100 to 150 volunteers every single year, and those are constantly changing. We take in high school students, university students, and loads of people within our community. Not very good at talking in front of people. I was getting very nervous. This is why I stay on the field, you know. What do you guys think? Do you think something else you'd like to add?
Just that we've had a fantastic, we just had a fantastic season so far. So our practicum program ran from April through October, so we got to see an entire growing season. So we're right in the thick of it right now. So I'm just gonna plug that program because we have, Noah and I have learned so much. There are people from all sorts of backgrounds, and yeah, we're just really excited to be part of this community now and getting to know other urban farmers. If you want to add, Noah? No. Okay.
I think if you guys come up to us at our booth, be much more receptive, way more easier, better communication skills, like one-to-one, you know? But yeah, that's like basically our big thing is community education and research. We usually have about anywhere between like 5 to 12 research projects going on a year. That is through the UBC and then outside of UBC as well. We have researchers from all over the world come and do research here. And it's an ever-changing thing. Kind of it started as just a small-scale market garden, and we're just constantly growing, adding new aspects to that. New research, increased CSA numbers, donations, all of those things. It's constantly changing, which is really exciting. And we hope to just keep watching it grow, you know? Yeah, very, very excited to be here. We don't usually get off the farm too much. We kind of stay over there, so I'm really excited to come to these events and come to more events. Get more comfortable talking in front of groups, you know? Lovely. Thank you so much for having us.
Awesome, thanks so much. I totally feel you. It's not a comfortable spot up here in front of everybody. So thank you so much to everybody for introducing themselves. It's so great to have like so many urban farmers and so many food system advocates in one space together for an event. Like it's really great, and I just want to extend my appreciation for everybody being here and for everybody coming up and introducing themselves and letting you all know what initiatives they're involved in. So I just want to give everyone, like for anyone who doesn't know Farm Folk City Folk, who's working with Farmers on 57th to host this event. We're BC's oldest and largest food and agriculture nonprofit. So this is actually our 30th year. We're having our 30th birthday this year. So we've been around for a long time. Our programs, they go from seed to plate. Within that, our sort of goal is to work to connect and inspire people to strengthen BC's food systems. And we do that through a number of programs. We have a BC Seed Security Program, we have a Climate Solutions Program, strengthening CSA. We have our big annual fundraiser, Feast of Fields. Some of you might have been to it. If you haven't heard of it, we have some information about it. So I encourage you to learn about that because it's coming up soon. As well, we have Siri here from our Seed Security Program. She's going to be doing some seed matching games and talking about the work that they do. So please feel free to reach out to, head over to her booth or come up to our booth over here if you want to learn more about Farm Folk City Folk. Sarah, you did a really great job of going over some housekeeping stuff, so I don't really feel like I have to do too much of that. Yeah, but just I guess just so that you know as well, like there's this plot, but then on the other side there's another plot that looks exactly similar to this, and at the end of that is where all of the other urban farms are set up. So I do encourage you to sort of take a walk and visit everybody there. Farmers on 57th is going to be doing farm tours every 15 minutes. So if you want to get a group of people together and do a farm tour, I think sort of this general area, this is where their booth is going to be, would be a good place to meet up with them, and then they can take you on a farm tour. I guess one other thing is that we'd love for you to take photos and tag us in them. So you can tag Farm Folk City Folk. You could also tag Farmers on 57th or any of the other farmers who are here. Make sure to grab their Instagram handles or their Facebook pages. But yeah, so take lots of photos, tag us in them. You can hashtag FFCF Growing Ag Awareness. It's written on some of the posters if you forget that. And other than that, yeah, just have fun and stay. Like it's not every day that we get to come and like hang out in a beautiful space like this, right? So I think just enjoy, and I'll throw on some music, and please feel free to grab some snacks at the tent over here, and Yeah, thank you so much for all being here.